Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. And I do apologize. I know that I'm going to be the presentation that takes over 10 minutes of your lunch. So I'll try to make this as brief and informative as I can. My name is Patricia Duchene. I'm the managing director at Wrike. We're headquartered out of San Jose, California. We're work management collaboration software, and our headquarters is right here for EMEA in Dublin. So I thought that before I got into this, I would break the ice by telling you a little bit about myself. This is like a date. So a little bit about me. I'm from California originally. I grew up in San Luis Obispo. I don't think anybody knows about San Luis Obispo. You know San Luis Obispo. Wow. Orange County, I like it. So I grew up in SLO. My dad's actually a farmer. Unfortunately for me, it was all the vegetables I hated: broccoli, cauliflower, radishes, you name it. University took me up north, so that's where I was introduced to Silicon Valley, and that's kind of where my story starts here. Sales, I have done sales in, unfortunately for me, about everything. I tried semiconductor equipment. I don't know if anyone's ever sold semiconductor equipment. I was in over my head. I also tried wine sales. But unfortunately for me, I was better at drinking the wine than selling the wine, so that ended quickly. And then I ended up at Wrike. So now we're at Wrike. You're listening to an American speak at a Dublin Tech conference who's clearly from a farm about growing pains. The reason that I know so much about growing pains is since I joined Wrike, we've grown over 4,000%. And I was hired at Wrike as their very first salesperson. And we've learned a lot. Those 4,000%, there's 4,000 learnings, 4,000 mistakes we made, 4,000 pieces I wish I would have known back then. And so when I reflect back on the learnings and the growing pains that we've endured, I can roughly categorize all of those growing pains into 3 categories. And I think these are 3 categories that everybody who's starting a company or who's run a company can empathize with. And the 3 that we're going to talk about today are technology, people, and process. 3 things every company has to have. So the first one I'm going to go into is technology. If you think about technology, it is like the car that drives your company from point A to point B, or from growth stage to enterprise stage. But the reality is that every car is not right for you right now. And so being able to identify what stage you're at as a company and what type of tools are suitable for you are really important. You don't want to buy a size 8 shoe if you are size 12. So a story about how we had to learn this was with our support organization. I've illustrated it up here. You can read the details. But the moral of the story here is that when we started, we used manual, free, ad hoc tools to support our customers. Why? There were only a handful of Wrike employees, only a handful of Wrike customers, and it got the job done. What do we need to do? We need to respond to support tickets. People had questions, we had answers. But there was a point when that started to break. We weren't able to support them well enough. So we moved to 2010 when we built our own ticketing system. Has anybody here ever built their own solution because they decided what was out there was too expensive or it's just easier to build it? Isn't it? Yeah. So that worked for us then. But what you don't realize is when you build something yourself, you have to maintain that. And so as we grew, it became very expensive, and all of a sudden that thing we were trying to achieve with support technology, which was get to our customers faster, wasn't happening. And that was the growing pain that made us ingest the pill saying, we gotta go buy something. We gotta go spend some cash and go out there and buy something. So now you can see today we've got a suite of fairly regular enterprise-grade tools. So when I look back at this experience and other experiences we've had in different departments, I've kind of come up with a couple things that I guess I would suggest you think about when you're looking at technology, no matter what stage of company you're at. And the main one I want to point out is that there is no one-size-fits-all. There is no reason for a startup to empty the bank account to go buy the newest enterprise tool. But there is no reason for an enterprise company to try to make the freemium solution, hack it together, and make it work. Remember what you're trying to achieve, and use that to drive your purchasing decisions. And remember the cost of not doing anything. Just letting it be broken, letting it strain, also doesn't work. So the next one we're going to go on to is people. This sometimes gets touchy because people are like, woo, what do you mean you grow out of people? You don't grow out of people. No, these are my first hires. I'm not necessarily saying you grow out of the individual, but the reality is that the skills a company needs when they're starting out are fundamentally different than the skills you need when you're a larger company. It's a fact. When I think about Wrike as an early stage company, we needed people who got their hands dirty, who jumped in. They were visionaries, and they were missionaries for the cause. But over time, you can feel some of those people as they're juggling all of these different initiatives. I mean, I think if everyone's here at a tech conference, everyone I'm sure at some point has handled like 5 jobs at once. It's the normal thing, I wear multiple hats in my company. Yeah, I'm CFO, I'm COO, oh yeah, I make coffee. That's normal. But there's a point when all of those hats, all of those balls you're juggling in the air are too much for someone. And so we go back to that feeling of strain. When you see someone that used to succeed start to be strained in their job, it may not be a case where they're not as competent as they once were. Rather, maybe all of these things we've asked them to do are now so big, they should be distributed. And that's where specialization comes in. And so I think about that a lot when I think about Wrike's growing pains, because when there were 5 of us in an office, we all did everything. Even when I moved here to Dublin, we all did everything. And over time, you have to learn to embrace specialization, because specialization is what gives you the upper edge. It's what differentiates you from your competitors. And so when I thought about hiring for this, we talk about people and the growing pains attributed to people and the ability to take one role and evolve it over time as the company gets older. These are the tips that I thought about. And the one takeaway I want you to I guess, if you're going to leave today about people and growing out and growing pains as it pertains, is to really think about the scope that you've given your employees and then what stage you're at. Is it fair? Have you put them in a position to succeed? And is the company leveraging the skills they need from that employee to achieve their revenue or their targets, whatever that may be? So then the third one we're going to talk about today is process. Easily my favorite because it's the easiest one to fix, but it is also the most neglected. In every startup, the minute you start implementing process, it's like, oh no, we're going to be like one of the big companies. I'm going to have to get 5 approvals for PTO. Don't want this. And so when you think about process, technology was that car that was driving our company. The process is the road. It's the road that you're driving on, that you're navigating. And if a process is made for purely process sake, then it's not accomplishing anything. So go back to the goals and the targets that you've set up. Does this process help you get there? And so one of the stories that I can share with you about how we had to evolve process was in our sales org. That's the one I'm closest to anyways. And when I joined in 2013, our process for sales was we had a list of leads, and the first one in just started calling. We had about 5 sales reps, maybe 4. That was it, just call. And that worked. We grew really fast. But over time, what happened was that revenue target that we were aiming for started to not seem so achievable. The reason it wasn't so achievable was that, 1, we had more Wrike employees. 2, we had more leads. And 3, oh my God, we had customers we had to deal with. That's first. So we had to maintain customer base. All of a sudden, we were jeopardizing our customers' experience because we weren't organized. We hadn't evolved our sales process to where we were as a company. So you move forward to where we are today, and we're regionalized, language-based. But if we'd done any of that in 2013, we would have been leaving money on the table. So our process had to incrementally evolve over time. Now, I thought about the evolution of this process, which I've written out all of these processes more times than I can count. My tip to you is that in any process, no matter what department, even if it's a matter of Write on Post-it note, put Post-it note on boss's desk. Write it out. Because the minute you can write out your process, only then can you start to organize them, can you start to streamline them, and can you then optimize them? And that is that is how a company moves in terms of process. In the beginning, you won't have one. It'll be a hot mess. Soon you'll be able to organize it, then you'll start to streamline it, and then you'll optimize. And so today I've briefly talked about 3 growing pains and how they pertain to Wrike. They are technology, people, and process. So technology is that car that's moving your company from A to B. People obviously in the car navigating. The process is the road that you're moving on. And the final stage of really building out this illustration are traffic lights. Traffic lights are where you can build automation within all of this. Where can you build in a yes, no, go, stop? Because that allows you to quality track. That allows you to control the information that your team is distributing to the customers. It allows you to control the quality of information. And most importantly, it allows you to optimize, which is the last stage I talked about, moving from streamline. So I am losing my voice in 3 days into a cold. I'm going to end here, but are there any questions? 1. How to deal with the frustration? Great. So the question is, you can see it up there. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think the key is that it's always an open conversation. At Wrike, it was constantly a topic of, we were all trying to achieve that enterprise grade level. And so because it was an open topic of conversation, everybody was very aware of their strengths and weaknesses. And if the weakness part is a part of the conversation, it makes it much easier to digest when the company starts to grow, and it's just not a good fit. I always talk about my experience with Wrike, that it's very much it's a relationship. And there will be a point where someone might not be the right fit based off the evolution of the company. But I think the key is to make sure it's always an open conversation. All right. Everyone wants lunch. Go get your burgers. Thanks.